Voter turnout in Los Angeles sucks. Political apathy is more apparent in Los Angeles than probably anywhere else in the world. In fact, just to give you some statistics, in 2013, only 16% of registered voters weighed in on the election that would help determine the city council, mayor, school board, and a potential tax increase. I mean, we're talking about tax increase.
We're talking about taxes?
Okay, we're talking about taxes. And Angelinos are like, what? We're not showing up. Who cares? We're not going to vote. So that's a little bit of a disaster. So officials have voted to find ways to incentivize voting in Los Angeles. How do we get people to the polls? Well, they are deciding that they're going to test a pilot program that will enter every voter into a lottery, and the potential winner might get between $25,000 to $50,000. Now, the question is this a good idea? Open it up.
Okay, so it sounds ridiculous, and of course, Republicans, I guarantee you, will complain immediately, like, oh, this will get more people to vote. You say you're bribing them to vote. That's, oh yeah, you're trying to buy their votes. But no, wait a minute. They can vote any damn way they like. They're not. Nobody tells them to vote Democrat or Republican or Libertarian, right? But they think the more people who vote, the worse it is for Republicans, because a lot of times the Republican voters are older and they are more politically active, and if you're and people, unfortunately, in poorer neighborhoods vote less, right? So the Republicans like that. So they're going to hate this proposal, right?
I hate this proposal. I'm not Republican.
That's interesting, right? So now me, at first, I'm like a little rankled by it. What, we got to give you money to vote? That's ridiculous, right? But ultimately, I like it.
Why?
You
I
know,
don't want a bunch of uneducated, uninformed people. No, I shouldn't say uneducated. Uninformed people showing up to the polls and voting for random people just because they think they're going to be entered into a lottery. That's the biggest problem.
I know, but the process, okay, first of all, so that sounds, the problem is, of course, it sounds a little elitist. I know you don't mean it that way, because you're literally saying they're not informed about these particular things. They're
issues.
Not incentivized to be informed. They're incentivized to just vote one way or another, right? So I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, the more people that participate in democracy, the better. And the more they participate, the more they might be informed.
I'm not buying that. Look, in order to be politically informed, you need a significant amount of resources, and the number one resource is time. Political issues are complicated. You know that more than anyone. Do you think someone who's politically apathetic is going to go out of their way to educate themselves on all these political issues and all these political candidates just so they could be entered into this lottery? No!
But you're asking too much of voters. Look, you don't have to be that sophisticated.
You should be that sophisticated if you're going to vote for politicians.
No, look, I know. And oftentimes voters get tricked by the ads, and the guys with the more money have more ads, and it's easier to trick people, especially here in California with all the stupid, propositions, and wording is so confusing. I can't even figure out which side who's on. And then you add the deceptive ads, and that tells you the exact opposite of what the proposition does, and it's maddening. So number one, we should get rid of the propositions, but that's a different issue, right? But when it comes to actually voting for legislators, look, if you don't think that people are going to make the right decision, that's a little undemocratic. You have to, at some point, trust the populace to know enough. And they got a gut, right? And it's...
That's crazy, Cenk. You're asking me to trust people that don't give a shit about politics to vote for politicians.
I know, but that's called democracy.
And the only reason why they're voting... I know, but here's the thing. Right now, voting is a voluntary thing, right? And I know that right now, even if you have a cash incentive, it's still voluntary. But you're giving them... You're asking them to vote for the wrong reasons. You want them to vote because they genuinely want to vote and they know and care about the issues and the politicians. In this case, they're just going to show up because they think that there's a chance they're going to win this jackpot. It's a bad idea.
It at least gets them to participate and give a little bit of a damn about the system. And we got to give it a shot. And look, I know we often make mistakes. George Bush kind of got elected twice, right? Yeah. So that happened, right? But in the long run, I believe that the more you distribute power and the more people who vote, the more you have distributed power to a wider set of people, the better it is for society. I'm not one of those people who thinks, oh, the American people are dumb.
Can I give you a quick... I know you say that we should get rid of the propositions. I don't know if I agree with you on that. But just think about Proposition 8 in California and how that passed. And Proposition 8 totally outlawed same-sex marriage, right? Now, then the Supreme Court got involved and they overruled and blah, blah, blah. You got all that. And so people can get married in California now. But it just shows you that if you're not educated on the issue, you're going to make the wrong decision. That's what happened in California.
No, the props are a totally unfair example because they are purposely confusing. They do it on purpose so that you have no idea which side you're voting.
Politicians are purposely confusing when they're running their campaigns.
I know, but then we can't cancel the elections, okay? But at least the politicians are clear enough that you have a general sense. Like, that's why, like, Latinos voted 41% in favor of George Bush, right? Or 44%, right? And then eventually, over time, they got the memo, right? Those Republicans are not on our side. And now they're over 70% in the opposite direction. It took a while. The process was wildly imperfect, but they got the memo, right? And eventually they get the memo. That's what I think is democracy. Curious what you guys think.
I think the thing is because this is an incentive, it sounds so bad. It's kind of sad, because that's just the state of our country. There's a lot of sad things about the state of our country that I'm depressed about every day. But I do think, after thinking about it more, there's a lot of incentives that make people vote. And also, I think it's maybe sweeping to say people who aren't incentivized to vote don't have the capacity to learn. Because I think maybe once they're incentivized, they're like,
that they don't have the
shit,
capacity
I never thought
to learn.
about this. Maybe
I know, but you're putting words in my mouth. I'm not saying they don't have the capacity to learn. I'm saying that if they're already politically apathetic, they are less likely to go out of their way to educate themselves on these politicians. Not having the capacity to learn is a completely different thing.
But I think I'm saying from this monetary system, which isn't, again, it's sad that we have to do that. I think there'll be a good percentage of people that will pick up on it and eventually be like, man, I don't know why I didn't get into this before. I started this job. I didn't give a shit about politics. I came in here trying to do sports. So
sorry about that.
I was forced into it by this guy because I had to do this stuff for his show. And next thing you know, I'm all about it. So I never would have thought, if I never had this job to this day at 34 years old, I still may be like, I really don't give a fuck. Because it's exactly what I said in 2000 when Al Gore ran against George W. Bush in George W. Bush's first win. And I was like, who cares? They're all the same. It's literally what I thought. I came in 2002. So you never know what may incentivize the right people, and you know how to find them. It sucks, again, for $50,000, but maybe they start going, oh, how does this work out? I don't know. I don't know if they can. I don't know if the people who don't know anything can destroy it. If that happens, I'm on your side. I don't know how we can figure that.
So, and remember, it's an experiment. That's why I definitely vote yes, because I'm curious to see how it's going to go. Now, there's another reason to be in favor of it. We live in LA. We could win the $50,000. Oh. By the way, I just won the entire room.